These are some of the Triumphant Light deck lists that we've had the most fun with. Let's check them out. Welcome back to Professor's Research. Me and Jake are here today, and we're going to be chatting about some of our favorite decks that we've played with or watched other people play with over the course of the last couple of weeks. So Triumphant Light has been out for a minute now. I personally went through 1 to 2 deck lists a day, and there's some that have really stood out to me. So let's get right into it. I think the first one is actually Obama.
Yes, President Abomasnow. This is such, dude. I also have really enjoyed this deck.
Yeah, this is a cool one because it uses Manaphy to generate energy for Arceus and Abomasnow, and I guess I'll just go over this card real quick. So Abomasnow is a stage 1. I think I love stage 1s too because I get so frustrated not drawing evolutions.
Yes.
And we received a couple different stage 1s, which we're probably going to go over today, but I think this deck is just so cool because it's really versatile. You start with Manaphy, you put energy on Arceus and Abomasnow, and if you have Arceus on the bench, Abomasnow can attack for only 2 energy. So that means you can attack with pretty much the same amount of damage as Starmie EX, except it's not an EX, so when you lose Manaphy, you lose 1 point. And then you can also throw away Abomasnow because that's just another point instead of, relying on an EX. And then you just, you can attack with it, maybe score a point, and then after that's destroyed, then you have Arceus to follow up. It also works with Irida too. Dawn works really well since you have Manaphy. I think this deck, when I was playing it on stream, I think I went on like a 7 win streak with it. I might have mentioned it before, but it's genuinely my favorite. I really want to see it, and I'm tempted just to record a video where I go into a tournament and play with this. Have you tried Abomasnow yet?
Yeah, dude, I think this is a really good card too, and I have seen some mixed results in tournaments with it. Of course, nothing is Arceus Dialga and stuff like that. But I agree with you. This has a lot of really cool combinations, and it feels like similar to sort of that Origin Form Palkia water deck that we've seen, where you've got 2 points that you can give away with Manaphy Abomasnow, and then Arceus can come in to kind of sweep everything up. So I agree, this is a really cool setup. It's a really cool card. It does feel like you're kind of getting Starmie for no EX. The only problem is once Abomasnow gets in, it's not getting out really until it goes down. But outside of that, I really do like this combination as well. It's also a Pokemon that I just happen to like, so I think that kind of helps. But I think this is a really cool deck. One of the first ones I made in Triumphant Light was the Abomasnow deck. So yeah, that's a very, very cool one.
I mean, do you remember the last Abomasnow?
Dude, I don't, but I remember it was awful, right?
4 energy, 120 damage, and 4 retreat cost. So
yeah,
it was almost unusable. So I'm really happy we got a new version of that. Do you have any decks that you've really enjoyed playing with?
You've got a close to a version of what I wanted to talk about right there, the new Magnezone. So new Magnezone is really interesting, right? In a new Magnezone deck, you get to play with the new Magnemite, which is very cool. The new Magnemite is just that metal version of Magnemite. And then you get to power up with the Magneton from Genetic Apex. And then you get Magnezone that has an Arceus link. So the thing I love about this combination is you actually have a crazy resilient, it is called Resilience Link. You have a crazy resilient Pokemon that I think your opponent doesn't really expect. When you see Magnemites hit the board, they think that you're bringing out the Magnezone that kind of sweeps, which is very, very good. This thing is a real tank, dude. It's very strong.
Oh, it's hard to get rid of.
It's so hard to get rid of. You, of course, can play it with some new cards like Adamant, which is very cool. And it feels like, considering you generate 1 colorless energy on your Magneton turn, it's really easy to power. Kind of similar to Abomasnow, right? It's very much like a 2-cost card to start swinging. You swing for 80 damage, and then at the same time, you can power up Arceus on the bench. I really, really like this card and this kind of deck setup. And I had great success with it. Every once in a while, you just get a deck where you're like, wow, this just wins games.
Yeah.
And I felt like this one was doing that for sure.
This one, I think, had like an 80% win rate for me, actually. Nice. It was insane. And if you think about Magnezone, there's so many Palkia decks going around currently still. If you think about Magnezone, say they attack with Dimensional Storm, which is 150 damage, you're taking minus 30. So you're only going to take 120 damage. And then when they use Slash, it deals 30. But if you have Arceus on the bench, Magnezone takes minus 30. So they do 0 damage with Slash.
Yeah.
So it can literally like take a full dimensional storm, still be alive, and then it cannot be finished off by Palkia because Slash doesn't work on it. So it's actually like a perfect counter for that. I had so many funny matches where I had this thing in, Palkia comes out, attacks once, and then it's like, oh crap,
yeah,
what do I do now? I can't finish off Magnezone
fully,
and then it gets destroyed right away.
And it's also weak to fire, and there are some cool fire decks right now, but in general I think fire has had like a rough set. Like you just don't see that much fire, so it's not stressful being weak to fire, as opposed to like some of the Arceus decks, right? Like weak to fighting, you see so much fighting. You really don't see that much fire, which I think is another just little feather in the cap for this deck. So Magnezone is one that Magnezone is one that I've loved in this set for sure.
Yeah, and Magneton's always good. You can literally put on your bench, generate energy, Dawn up onto your like Dialga or your Arceus, and then just power those, because Arceus is colorless too, so it works perfectly with Dawn. It is a really cool deck list. I wish more people would play with it.
Yeah, super fun.
Let me see here. There's so many, it's hard to pick. I think one that I covered recently, and I saw a couple other creators talk about too, and I've actually played against it a ton, and it just, I don't know, it took me so long to build a deck on it. Because I wasn't sold at first, but after I played with it, I was like, this is super cool. And that's actually the new Lake Trio deck. So it changed. A lot of people know the Lake Trio deck is just, you need all three of them on board, then you activate Mesprit, do 160 damage. And it's kind of weak because they each have 70 HP, but it got so much better because we have the new Shaman that has the ability Sky Support. It allows you to retreat your active Pokemon for one less. So as soon as you attack with Mesprit, you don't need to use X speed or waste an energy to retreat. You can just immediately retreat into Uxie, or the other way around. You can start with Uxie if you're going second, get an energy with Mind Boost, put an energy on your bench. The next turn, you just retreat for no cost, Dawn, move energy onto Mesprit, and then on your second turn, you're attacking for 160 damage. And it's also more consistent because, like I said earlier, they're weak. They only have 70 HP. So if one gets knocked out, we now have Celestic Town Elder, which instantly just brings it back to your hand for you to play again. So whenever you're playing against the Lake Trio deck, you have to be aware that, like, even if you knock out one of them, they're probably coming back the next turn.
Yeah, that's really cool. Honestly, you talking about this and looking at this is selling me on it. I made a Lake Trio deck with the last set, and it was fun, and you know, it has its moments, and you definitely could tell it's not a meta deck. But this is a way more exciting way to play it. You're right. With Sky Shaman, you can move them around, and it's one of the only decks. I want more decks that have this, but it's like one of the only decks that I can think, where could you even use Celestic Town Elder? This is one of the only ones where you desperately need a specific Pokemon on the bench, or you are cooked. So I do think this is a really, really great option for that card, and that is, that's a very cool setup. Honestly, like that, I have not played this version of it. That looks really exciting.
You have to try it. It's so much fun doing 160 damage on your second turn. I made a video, and like there was so many times where I just would immediately, use Uxie, put energy on the bench. Next turn, retreat for no cost, go into Mesprit, Dawn, and then bam, 160 immediately. Then whatever they're setting up is just gone. It's a blast to play. Get it?
Yeah, that's a very cool deck.
There we go.
I like that. I like that a lot. I think, as you're scrolling through some of your decks here, I feel like we have to talk about Snorlax Berry. Like Snorlax Berry, there are a few like versions of it. We're looking, you're like hovering over a Staraptor one right here. Berry with Snorlax is ridiculously good. This is essentially the double colorless energy for this set. Being able to attack 2 turns earlier on Snorlax is massive. Also, just being able to attack with 1 energy on Staraptor is pretty dang huge, dude. The version that you've got right here has Irida in it because these cards are all colorless, so you can play really whatever energy you want. You can play water energy. Irida for the heals, Berry for the crazy amount of damage, and this actually makes Snorlax playable, which is really cool. But not only playable, it feels pretty dang formidable. The only thing that I think is a little unfortunate about this deck is I've made it with Lumberry and stuff like that, and I actually think you don't need it. That's the only thing that's a bummer. It feels like Lumberry is such a cool idea, but you'd probably rather have a Cape or a Rocky Helm, or even just other cards in your deck. The ability to wake up isn't that relevant all the time.
I love that you said that, because I did have a lot of people in the comments like asking me why I'm not running Lumberry, and it's exactly like you said. You get a lot of chances to wake up with Snorlax.
You do.
Before your next turn, you get 2 coin flips, and most of the time you don't have 2 berries in your hand, so you can't even attack the next turn after you use Collapse. So by the time you either draw a berry or get 4 energy, you're gonna be awake by that point. You know what I mean? So I tried it with Lumberry, but I had like 0 instances of where I had 2 berries in my hand and a Lumberry. You know what I mean? So I usually it would just be useless.
Yeah, that's the exact.
I think you're right about that.
I had that exact same situation where I wanted it to be more useful than it was, but yeah, not only like the thing that's interesting about this is you have your checkup phase right after you attack. So half of the time you wake up immediately. And then you have another turn if your Pokemon stays, around and is not KO'd. You have another turn with another checkup. So you have 2 coin flips to wake up immediately. And just like you said, you've probably buried with 2 energy on your Snorlax. So unless you have another one in hand, you still have an entire other turn that you can power up and use energy if you're still asleep. So yeah, I just feel like I wish Lumberry was more a part of this deck, but it's still cool.
I've never even seen Lumberry really. Maybe in the future as the game evolves, we'll see it more. But right now, you're right. It's not super useful. I do think Snorlax is like an insanely fun engine. You can play it with so many different decks. There's like a Greninja variant of it now that's pretty good. You just sit it out there, do early damage with Berry, and then snipe from the back line. That you just throw it in with literally anything that needs something out front stalling. It's just a great engine, and we've seen engines introduced in every pack. Like Magnezone was a great engine last update. Now I guess honestly the best one is probably just Snorlax. I don't think we got any other like splash cards other than that, right?
No, yeah, I think you're right. Snorlax, like, yeah, you can put it in a ton of different decks. There's some really cool.
Yeah, I just threw it in like a Golem one the other day too, and it was actually fantastic.
Yeah, it's a great. Finally, Snorlax is a good wall that can also attack and do things. Because before people would put it in a deck, and you would just think, well, all it can do is sit there, right? In fact, I would love when my opponents used to put a Snorlax down because I would think, oh, dude, I'm just building up Greninjas, so good luck with that thing, man. I'm going to chip away at your bench the whole time. But yeah, now it's actually a great wall, and it can do some fighting, which is really cool.
Let's see here. I'm trying to think. There's actually so many decks that we received. I was a little bit worried before Triumphant Light because we're getting all those Arceus links, and a lot of people were saying, "Oh, you're forcing us to link with another Pokemon. That's gonna like limit creativity." But they did it really well. A lot of these cards, you can throw Arceus and another card like Heatran, for example, in an Infernape deck, which I had a lot of fun with. That's no retreat cost on Heatran, no retreat cost on Infernape. Now, this isn't one of my favorites because Infernape is a stage 2, and for some reason, I feel like I just cannot draw this guy. I don't know why, but I never draw him when I play the deck. But still, that's a good example of like you can throw Arceus and its combo in with another deck. I think one that I had a lot of fun with that I didn't expect to be as good as it was is Nosepass EX. This guy is a tank.
Yeah.
It's a tank. It really reminds me of Magnezone because when he attacks, let me find the statistics here for him.
It's Probopass, yeah.
Oh, Probopass. I am saying the wrong name. Okay, so Probopass, 160 HP, pretty beefy. It knows defensive unit, 3 energy, 90 damage, which not an amazing attack, but it takes minus 20 from attacks the next turn, and now we have Adamin, which you can combine with that, so you're going to take minus 40 after you attack. It's fantastic. Throw Cape on him. He's at 180 HP, and then he takes minus 40 the next turn, making him almost impossible to get rid of. Since you have 3 energy too, that's super cheap. You can power him up real quick with Dialga, or you can use Skarmory early game, put 1 energy on it, attack, which I actually like the Skarmory build because I think it's really aggressive. You have Skarmory out there in the active zone, you throw Rocky Helmet on it, it does a ton of damage early, and by the time it's removed, you're going to have Probopass up, and then Probopass is just almost impossible to get rid of when you combine it with Adamin. I think this is I call it the Uncle deck, the hairy Uncle deck.
Yeah.
And it's super good. Have you tried a version of this yet?
I've played a couple Probopass. I haven't played it with Skarmory. I still love Skarmory so much. Like Skarmory Bastiodon is still like one of my absolute favorite decks. The guaranteed aggression from Skarmory right into Bastiodon I just think is so unbelievably fun. But this is a great version of it. Probopass is actually kind of shockingly good. It's just a better Melmetal, right? It's just like a better version of Melmetal. more HP. It does do a little less damage, but because it's only 3 energy, it's so much easier to power this thing in so many different decks. This is a really cool variant of it. Yeah, I like this a lot. I mean, one card we have not talked about yet and is so splashable, it's in every deck, is Sudowoodo. Dude,
of course.
Sudowoodo is like one of the huge stars of this set. So what you're hovering right now that I can see is that Rampardos Lucario with Sudowoodo. That thing is unbelievable, dude. It's so good. That's like a tournament killer deck too. It's amazing. Plays really well into Arceus Dialga. Sudowoodo is the like full-on kryptonite for Arceus decks. I love it. It's awesome. 1 energy and you smack for 70 right off the bat. That's crazy, dude.
Yeah, imagine breaking starting with Arceus and then you just see Sudowoodo.
I know.
And if they're going second, they get their energy first and they do 70 damage to you. It's like, what, you just concede, right?
I feel like at that point you go, well, Arceus is gone. There's absolutely there's nothing I could do. That is now a wall, and I have to hope something else happens. Like Sudowoodo has been really cool, and that Rampardos deck is awesome. I mean, without Lucario, you KO Arceus in 1, right? It does 150. If they have Cape, Lucario still KOs it in 1. It's so dang strong. The only thing holding this deck back even slightly is, of course, the fact that there's nothing to draw a fossil with. That's like the only thing. There's like no way to get a fossil. If your fossils happen to be your last couple cards, you will just fully brick with this deck. But other than that, the new fighting with Sudowoodo is so good.
Dude, at this point, I hope we don't get a fossil searcher because there's so many good fossil Pokemon.
Yeah.
That's why I think they specifically overpower them, because they know they're a little bit inconsistent.
I think you're right.
They that has to be the strat behind this, because 130 damage for 1 energy is absurd. Even though there's a 50 damage blowback, it's not an EX, so it doesn't matter if you lose Rampardos. Like, you can just go into Marshadow after it gets destroyed, right? And then trade it out. And then Sudowoodo early game is fantastic. Like, this whole deck, the most expensive attack is only 2 energy.
Yeah. And it's Lucario, Submarine Blow. I think, I guess Marshadow too. I think
Revenge,
you're so right. In fact, someone was saying this on stream the other day when I was playing a fossil deck. They mentioned how they thought fossils were completely balanced around the idea that if you were able to easily get them, they are kind of broken. Like, Rampardos is kind of broken. Bastiodon is kind of broken. Even things like, what is it? Amistar or whatever. These cards are insanely good. Yeah, we're looking at Bastiodon right here.
Bro,
I mean,
3 energy?
Yeah, 3 energy for
stops.
80. And then a 50-50 to take minus 100 damage. It's nuts, dude. It's so nuts.
And what's the water one that you just mentioned?
Omastar. Yeah.
Amistar or Omastar? So I never know.
It's I don't know. I guess I know Abomasnow, one of the two for sure.
Bro, this is 3 energy. Again, all of these are like very cheap for what they do. 3 energy, 70 is not amazing, but you stop them from attacking. It's not even a coin flip. They just say you cannot attack the next turn.
Yeah, they have to move that Pokemon or it can't attack. It just sits there. It's so unbelievably good. So I do think fossils are probably balanced around this, because if you could guarantee pulling a fossil, the decks might just be way too good.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that was like majority of the things that I want to talk about. There's been so many really cool decks. Like, I just covered the new Gengar. It's super cool too. But those were like the highlights that really stood out to me this update. Is there anything we're missing here?
I do want to talk about, like, just in general, I think a few of the links have been really cool, and we've kind of touched on them. We talked about Abomasnow, we talked about new Magnezone, but I've really liked Carnivine. I think the big reason is because Carnivine has felt just a lot like Skarmory for me. So you have Arceus, and then all of a sudden Carnivine swinging for 50. I absolutely love that. Heatran has been amazing because you are able to like slot that in and use it as like that no retreat. Crobat has been really cool. In general, like kind of as you were saying, I've actually been super stoked and happy with all of the links. I really like them, and I like the variety of play it's added to the game. I think they did the links so well.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I haven't had any complaints yet. I was a little worried before the pack drop, but so far every single pack that they've released has been really, really good. They've done a great job balancing. Maybe that's why they're not releasing any new events, because they spend all their time play testing these cards. But
yeah,
I think that's it for today. If you guys have actually, let me know your favorite deck. Put it in the comments down below. I want to hear it. Maybe there's something that I haven't seen yet, and I'll definitely read through them and try them out. But thank you guys for watching another episode of Professor's Research. We will be back again next week, next Friday, so watch out for that. There is also a video over on Jake's channel too, where we're talking about some things in game that we would like to see that would really just help the game. Actually, what do we call it?
Yeah, that were, I mean, just like nice improvements for the game, big quality of life changes.
Quality of life. Yeah. So make sure to go check that out. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Bye.